Peace and blessings, YouTube family. Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in once again to the Doctor's Corner. Wanted to have another conversation with you pertaining to caregiving, particularly as we talk about family caregiving. And, as I meditated and thought more about our previous conversation, I think it's necessary that we narrow the lens, focus the lens somewhat of the conversation, because when we speak about caregiving, that's such a broad spectrum, right? You have parents who are caregivers of their minor children, and that's not really who I'm attempting to speak to. Doesn't by any means does not minimize that role that we as parents play. But specifically, what I wanted to talk about was individuals providing elder care, right? Which is that's the language used by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics and the U.S. Census Bureau. They look at elder care. Specifically, there's 14% of our U.S. population who provide unpaid elder care in our country. That's roughly just over 37 million people. So, if you recall on our previous conversation, I mentioned, I didn't know in terms of the hundreds of the thousands of the 10,000s. Well, there's actually 37 million of us that exist out here today, right? And according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the majority of us, in terms of who's providing this care, this elder care, the majority of this demographic, 59% are women who's providing that level of care. And so it's pretty interesting. Even the 4.5 million that they identified as the sandwich generation, where that's those of us who have families, we have children that we're raising. At the same time, we're providing care for our elderly family members, whether that's our parents, grandparents, so forth and so on, right? 4.5 million of us are in that category and in that group. So that specifically is you who I'm specifically talking to, right? Because I'm in that demographic. I'm in all of those. I represent, that smaller portion in terms of gender, in terms of men, but I'm certainly in that sandwich generation where I have, a daughter who, we're raising and taking care of, as well as my 89-year-old mother. And so the complexities of all of that, in terms of how tough it gets, how, overwhelming it often feels, right? Because that's the balancing act. In our previous conversation, we talked about that in terms of the balancing act of you, having to find the time to be able to do all of these different things in terms of your responsibilities that you have. And so, attempting to find a slither of space for yourself, for your own care. And so, the title of this particular episode is, caregivers need care too, right? And so that is what led me to start this conversation, because I understand and know, all of the difficulties that I have experienced. I've only been in this role for just over a year, in terms of providing direct round-the-clock care for my mother. There are many of you, though, who are tuning in or who will tune in. You've been in this role for years, some for decades. So the things that I've experienced in just this 14-month period of time, those of you who have been in this role even longer can even add to this conversation in terms of the difficulties involved of finding space, finding, a way in an area for you to take care of yourself, right? And so I wanted to create a dialogue. I wanted to create, a discussion, specifically for those of us who are in these roles. Somebody out there right now, I don't know who you are, but you may be in a position where, you feel like throwing the towel in, right? You feel like giving up because the weight of the responsibilities of all of this, and particularly if you are part of that 4.5 million in that terms of that sandwich generation, where you're just really, really, you're at an imbalance of life, right? You just, time just appears to be running. I mean, that's the reality of our world, where it appears as if from the time we get up to the time, we decide to slumber, they seem more like minutes than hours, right? That's how fast the day goes by. And so while we understand and know that, we need to find a way and well, how do you do it, right? My day typically starts somewhere between 4 and 6 o'clock. I usually wake, somewhere around 4 or 5. Typically I'm on the mat in terms of exercising, around 6 a.m. And that really, that's a form of therapy for me personally. That helps me. That the days that I don't do that, or the days that I feel it, right? I feel the stress and I feel the heaviness and all throughout my body. It's a level of when I work out that allows me the opportunity to flush out some of those some of that stressful energy from my body. And so that's why I was curious to hear, what others of you do, but for that individual, or for those individuals who are thinking about, you don't know, you're questioning yourself. You don't know how much longer you can do this. You don't know how much longer you can, carry on, right? Don't give up. Regardless of all of the noise you may be hearing negatively, regardless of the family members that you have that are not helping, that are not assisting, that are not calling or checking in and doing all the things that you think that would be helpful. Regardless of all of that, regardless of whatever issues you may be having, if you are blessed enough to be able to have professional caregivers in your space to help out, regardless of all of those issues, don't give up. Stay the course, because what I'm hoping, one of my other ultimate goals is, through this dialogue, through this network, is to be able to let you know that you're not alone. You're not the only one going through what you're going through. And so with that, I just wanted to pause a moment, stepped out of the office to be able to share this with you very quickly, and we will continue this conversation. But please find a way, whether that's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever you can force yourself to carve out. Take time to provide that care for yourself, because the reality is you need and deserve care too. Okay, family, until we talk again, peace. Take care.